Megovanen melons. Or melon, I don't know what the plural is for. Is it melons? Maybe it is. That's Elvish for welcome, people. Welcome, friends. Welcome, friends. And here we are in the Eaves of Mirkwood. We're about to head into Mirkwood. This is where quite a lot of action happened in the Hobbit. And so if you've not read The Hobbit, if you've not watched the movie, I'm going to spoil it for you here. But of course, this could be your definitive first version. You never know, so watch on. If you have missed the beginning of this series and you've come to this video, we did start in Hobbiton, and there should be a link at the top right hand corner. Otherwise, we're just going to crack on. This is us following the journey of Bilbo in the book The Hobbit, and having a bit of idle banter along the way. Some people like it, most people probably don't. So if you're one of them, thanks for watching this far. So anyway, here we are heading into Mirkwood, and it's nighttime here, so it's quite good, even though it looks like there's daylight coming through. You see that? It's nighttime out there, right? But there's daylight coming through there. That's kind of spooky, isn't it? I guess that's just the way they set up the forest. With no sky, really. It's more like a cavern, I suppose. There's quite a lot of light coming through there. Anyway, forget that. That's just some kind of interesting glitchy thing. And we're wandering through. So, as I said, quite a lot happens in here with the dwarves and Bilbo. Gandalf says, stick to the path, and Gandalf, he clears off and goes to Dol Guldur to scare out the necromancer, which we hear about later in Lord of the Rings, what he did there. But we don't see it in The Hobbit, even if it is in the movie. So, I guess one of the criticisms you might have of The Hobbit, the movie, is it just bloated out too much. Too much stuff in the movie that wasn't really in the book. But I guess they were trying to do a prequel for the whole of Lord of the Rings, not just, make a movie of the book, I guess. Did it work? Wasn't as tight a series of movies as the Lord of the Rings movies were, I don't think. But anyway, everyone is their own judge of these things. And I wouldn't want to sway anyone's opinion. I mean, there were parts of it that were actually really good. And Martin Short was very good as Bilbo. I thought he was excellent. What about the characters? What about the actors? I wasn't so taken with the guy that played Thorin, have to say. Seemed a bit grumpy to me. And played Thorin as a very, very angry man. I don't know. Was that really... It never seemed to me that angry in the book. But brooding, whatever. I quite liked the guy Glowin. The guy who played Glowin. I don't know the names of these actors. I haven't watched the Hobbit movie in a long time. Gandalf, of course, was very good. And then we had the various reappearances of other characters. We had to see Frodo again at the beginning. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I thought some of the acting was good, some of the dwarf characters were good, but they didn't get many lines, did they? The whole thing was, some of the dwarfs didn't really say anything. I think they might have got one line in the space of 3 movies, which seems a bit rough when it was a story about them, so I don't know. Don't know. These things are, I suppose, up to the maker of the movie, and if you want to make a better movie, go and make it yourself, I suppose. Get the rights and make your own. Haha. Here's me making my own. Well, actually, we're not telling the story of the Hobbit, really. So, anyway, we're running in here. Gandalf says, stay on the path. He buggers off, and the dwarves get in here, and it's all very spooky woods, and it gets even spookier a little bit further in, but they wander along in for a while, and they're going quite well. And then they come to a river that doesn't have a bridge, and they don't feel like it's very safe to cross, but they see a boat across the river, and they manage to get it pulled across to their side, and they use it, but Bombur falls in and ends up in a sleeping stupor of some kind, and they have to carry him from then on. So everything goes even slower, and it makes it harder for them. And then they get into even spookier parts of Mirkwood. But you'll see here, as we go through Mirkwood, you see it's very dark. Yeah, and Can't really... Oh, there's a bit of sky up there. It is nighttime out there. Very dark and spooky. Got spooky music playing. Anyway, it just occurred to me the other day that if you think about Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, the stories actually are very, very similar, aren't they? Really. I mean, you've got a hobbit that leaves Hobbiton and heads for Rivendell. Has an adventure on the way. Bilbo has the trolls. Frodo has the old Forest Bombadil and the Barrow-wights. And then a bit of Bree. So it's expanded. It's a bigger book. The Lord of the Rings. So they go to Rivendell. Then they come out of Rivendell, end up going underground. They go up a mountain and then go underground, which is essentially what happens in both books. In The Hobbit, they go up the Misty Mountains and then end up in the Goblin Town, in the tunnels. And in The Lord of the Rings, they go up the mountain to try and get through the... what's it called? The can't remember. That mountain pass. And get turned back and then end up going through Moria, so they go underground. And then when they come out of going underground, they end up in a big forest. In Lord of the Rings, it's Lothlorien. In The Hobbit, it's Mirkwood. It's bizarre, isn't it? Really, they just keep doing the same thing. I mean, I don't know. It's just never occurred to me, really, that the stories are structurally very, very similar in terms of the geography that the characters move through. Then it changes as the party splits up in Lord of the Rings, but yes, and they end up going down a river in a boat. In fact, there's a boat in this story as well. They end up on a lake, going in a boat up to the end of the lake, and in fact in Lord of the Rings they end up in a boat going down the Great River. And then they land, and that's really where the stories diverge. The party breaks up in Lord of the Rings, whereas the dwarves all pretty much stay together in this story, but then we're very close to the end of this story by the time that all happens. So Lord of the Rings, really, if in some ways, Tolkien almost plagiarized himself. He just said, well, we have to make the woods different woods, and we have to make the caves different caves, and we have to make the mountain a different mountain, and we have to make the journey to Rivendell slightly different. So anyway, there you go. Kind of interesting. That occurred to me. Bizarrely, I've read these books so many times, and it had never occurred to me really to think that before. But if you think about it, the structure is very, very similar. The two books, up to a point. So there you go. That occurred to me. What do you think? Am I being too harsh on Tolkien to say that he copied himself? He plagiarized himself? With Lord of the Rings was just basically started off as a kind of expanded Hobbit, almost. So there you go. Maybe if you've got a good formula for success, stick with it, I guess. And there were various other things that, various other books in the 70s and 80s pretty much copied the story of Lord of the Rings, Hobbit. So, The Eye of the World, that first book of Robert Jordan's, was very similar to the beginning of Lord of the Rings. Characters' name changes, but pretty much similar stuff, having to escape a village and being tracked by the bad guys, having some kind of heirloom or some secret that you had to carry with you. So as you can see, it gets very spooky in here. And we haven't come to that river yet. It's a long old trip, this, Mirkwood. Yes, and what was the other one? Sword of Shannara sounded very, very like Lord of the Rings. There was a time when... Oh, look, eyes in the distance. See that? Spooky eyes appear at this part of the forest. Makes it all... Oh, here's somebody coming the other way. Player. Hey! Hello! Should have waved. It's just... I should get my emotes onto some kind of... action key of some kind. Shortcut. Keyboard shortcut. That's the word. Should get a wave emote or something going on. That'd be cool. But I haven't done that. Maybe I'll try it in the future. So here we are still. We're heading downhill now. We're going to get to this river where you go to sleep. And you do go to sleep. It still does this to you. So I'm going to show you that. It's kind of funny. So anyway, they came to this river. There was no bridge there at the time. The elves have built this bridge since. After the necromancer was defeated. The elves have built the bridge since and put it back. But the party came down here and needed to get across this river. And if you get too close to this river, that's what happens. You fall over. You kind of fall asleep. What do you see? Try and get out of here. Yeah. See that? I don't know if we can see the boat, if the boat's still there. I mean, remember this is all quite a long time ago, so... Any boat there? Is there any boats? I don't see a boat. I think they came ashore on this side here, it's mentioned. We'll go and have a look, see if there's a boat. We'll get knocked over again, what do you say? Woohoo! Oh. Hey! That's what happened to Bomber. He fell in the water and went to sleep, and they had to carry him the rest of the way. So there you go. It's all a bit spooky. Right, so let's carry on. We're heading up now to see if we can find the point where the... See eyes in the distance. It's the spooky parts of the wood. So yes, they come up out of this scary part, and they start getting really frustrated because they're having to carry Bomber with them, and then they're marching along here, getting very, very upset. And after a certain period of time, they see in the distance through the trees a light. And not having learned from their experience of following a light to the trolls, they follow the light to this one as well, and they discover that it's a big party of elves having dinner. Yeah, big feast in the forest. But as soon as the dwarves step out of the shadows, the lights all go out and the elves disappear. And they do this a couple of times, get completely lost. The elves get fed up disappearing and disappear completely. And then they're attacked by spiders. And then, of course, Bilbo has to rescue everybody from the spiders. He attacks the spiders with his little sword. And this is where the sword gets the name Sting from, because he attacks the spiders. And he puts on his invisible ring. Remember, he's got a ring, and the spiders can't see who it is. All they can see is all they can feel is the sting. So Bilbo christens the sword the Sting. Names the sword Sting. Christen's probably the wrong word. Anyway, they see this party going off, and so this is where they leave the path here. You see, they leave the path here, and then they get caught up with spiders. And they get all lost. And attacked by spiders. Somewhere up here. And then the spiders wrap them up. And try and cart them down to their spidey hole. Which is down here. Look, spiders. Where are they? Down here somewhere. Here they go. Woohoo. So this is where the spiders were, but the elves have cleared them away, but the area is still very spidery. Oh, got lost. Go the other way. The area is still very spidery. But you can get out the other end, which is what I'm going to try and do. See, look, spider. So anyway, end of term. Yes, school's finished. We're going to go on our holidays, and I don't know how many more videos I'm going to make in the period of time, next 6 weeks or so. Got various things to do. Going to go and see the Open in Portrush. That'll be exciting. And here we are, right? And so Bilbo gets rescued. The elves come and pick up the dwarves, and Bilbo's still got his ring on, so he follows the elves. The dwarves are all carried into the elven fortress, which is where we're going to go. What are we up to? 15 minutes. So we'll have time to see where the dwarves are put. They're put into the prison in the Elven fortress. Well, they're taken before Thranduil first. And Thranduil wants to know what... That's the Elven king. Wants to know what they're up to. And of course Thorin doesn't want to tell anybody. Doesn't trust elves. The elves didn't really help out when the dragon came. But it was too late by the time the elves arrived. Oh, another player. Get my wave emote going. Hello. Yes, so yes. And here's the Elven thingy. Palace. On the... Oh god, I nearly fell in there. It's close. Here's the river where barrels might pass eventually. Not quite sure how we're going to do that. We might be able to swim down that river. But what we can't do is we can't go through the hatch with the barrels. We can operate that, but it just gives us a teleport in the game, which is less interesting for our video. But maybe we might do that. Let's see if we can do a swim down the river. It may be too dangerous. I've never actually done it. We'll have to see if we can do it. But again, another trip down a river, right? So everything kind of repeats itself in The Lord of the Rings. So after this bit in the forest, there's a trip down a river onto a lake, then another boat trip. So it's all kind of odd, really, isn't it? Well, the thing that's odd is it never occurred to me before. Anyway, we're going to go and visit Thranduil, and where Thorin was quizzed about his activities. If we're lucky, we might run into Legolas. Remember, he's the prince of this place. Thranduil's his dad. Right, Dad? That's what Legolas says. Someday, lad, all this will be yours. What, the curtains? No, not the curtains, lad. So, yes, put a Monty Python. So here we go, up to Thranduil's throne. Looks good, doesn't it? Let's get a first-person view of the interior of this palace. This is the audience chamber of Thranduil's fortress, underground fortress. Yeah, here's Thranduil up here. We'll go up and say hello. He's not going to talk to us though. He might say something. Let's see. Hello, Thranduil. Right, yeah. And he decides that the dwarves are being very naughty boys, and they're not the Messiah, and so he's going to throw them into prison, and that's what he does. And we'll go and end our video for today. Maybe at the prison we'll have a look at where the escape route is, because there's meanwhile, Bilbo spends his entire time wearing the ring in here and sneaking about. Doing a golem, really, in fact. No, we have to go this way, to the left up here. And then we get through into prison. Let's see if we can find the prisons. Somewhere about down here. And yes, I'm just enjoying running through here. Anyway, summertime, holidays. So I will take, I'll have access to a machine I can do recordings on, although I'm not sure I'll be able to do them in the same resolution that I do them in right now, because I've figured out a lot of these resolution things. If anybody wants some tips in that, maybe I could make a video, but let me know in the comments. But I think that I've got things for this tune. Listen to this tune. They could, you know, that tune, the same tune's played in everywhere in Middle Earth by somebody playing a flute. There's always somebody playing a flute somewhere playing that tune. It's a bit like the, whatchamacallit, Scream. Is that the prison? No, that's the lower room. Okay, Gandalf might be up there, actually. He likes hanging around books. These look like cells, don't they? Yes, get yourself locked up in there. Haha. So this is the prison, probably. Prison wing. And there's another room, I think, somewhere here that's got more cells in it. So yes, the dwarves get locked up, and then Thorin gets locked up in a special room, which I think might be just up here. Somewhere. This might be it, is it? Yes, here's our extra prisoners. So for an elvish king, he had lots of prison cells, and all the dwarves were locked up in one prison cell each. And then Bilbo eventually rescued them. He got the elven jailers all drunk by encouraging them to drink wine, and then he hustled the dwarves down here, because what he'd noticed was that in the wine cellars, the Elven King liked his wine. You can see that, can't you? Look at this. Look, there's only about 100 of them here, and they're all drinking that stuff. See how much wine they go through. Obviously, you need a fair bit of wine to make an elf drunk. Anyway, Bilbo watched the action, and what he discovered is that the empty wine casks go back to Lake Town, which is where they come from, via a hatchway down here, you see? So this hatchway, they dump the barrels down there, and the barrels fall into the river and float down to the lake, to the elves at the end of the river, and the river, we'll be able to see it here. See? Here it is. I think it's called the River Running or something, is that right? The river's down there. And if we drop down through this hole, we'd get into the river, but you can't do it here. Can you see the river there? No. But you can't get into the river from here, because if we jump into this empty apple barrel, if we jump in there, we'll end up down at the next place. There's the river. See? We just teleport to the next spot where they get out of the barrels. So what I think we'll try and do in the next video is we're going to try and get around to as far up the river as we possibly can to this trapdoor, and see if we can float down the river in proper barrel floating fashion, and see if we can get to Lake Town that way. If not, we'll just go by land. We can actually teleport, but it seems less interesting. I don't think there's any way to teleport back, so I'm not going to do that. Anyway, there you go. Hope you enjoyed the video. And I don't know when the next one will be, but I'll see you in the next one when it is. Good night, and hope everyone has a great summer.